Charles Lee, Jaren Collins, and Kevin Ollie are considered early frontrunners for the Pistons as they search for a new coach. This comes from James Edwards. We haven't talked about all these names. Jaren Collins is a new one. We did not mention him last week. So what are your, I want Charles Lee. And I've made this pretty clear. I've said this on Twitter. If the Pistons go with multiple big men, I want a coach that has been in a system that operates with multiple big men, and that is Charles Lee. You have Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Brook Lopez. Obviously nobody on this team is Giannis, but I don't think the offense just works just because of him. I think that there is something in place to get the most out of all of those guys. So give me a coach that has worked with multiple big men in the lineup. But what about you, Anthony?
I was doing my research on Jaren Collins because I'd like to give some context to these, coaches, because most Pistons fans, when you put these names out, the first response you get is who, because they're not household names. They're not your Mark Jackson, Doc Rivers, whatever, right? So give some context to all three of these guys. So Jaren Collins, he was with Golden State multiple years. He was with them for 3 title runs, and he's an assistant right now for the Pelicans. And in James's article that he did write, apparently the Pistons really liked him a lot. And that was something that I took out of the article, and I was like, okay, that's something to keep an eye on, because if they like someone, there's a good opportunity that they get a second interview, possibly. Charles Lee, as we know, has been kind of like that odds-on favorite who is a Bucks assistant. He's been with Bud for 8+ years, like we said last week. I'm so happy that we did clip that out and we were kind of like the first of the news. That's so cool. Cool to see. Awesome. But Charles Lee is probably, the favorite to get the job. He's an assistant coach, or he's an associate coach now with the Bucks to, get a job because he's 38. He's one of the youngest candidates that the Pistons have interviewed. And he's just a guy that has kind of climbed up the ranks over the years. And a lot of people like him. I was doing more research on him as well. And I think what Troy Weaver said on his 97.1 The Ticket interview, Charles Lee really just checks all of the boxes that he's looking for. Looking for a guy that can relate to players. I think Charles Lee and Jaren Collins can do that. Same with Kevin Ollie, who I'll talk about in a little bit. Defense. I think he also said development. And I think all three of those guys check all those boxes. So I think that's why they're the front runners. And we kind of talked about Kevin Ollie last week, winning the national championship with UConn. Now he's at the Overtime Elite League as a development coach. So I know it's early in the head coaching, searching for the Pistons, but I personally want Charles Lee just because I've seen what he's done over there, and maybe possibly you bring Chris Middleton to the Pistons. That's something you have to think about too, man. You look at these coaches, maybe they bring someone with them. Maybe a Jaren Collins brings a Brandon Ingram with them. Maybe
don't even tell me that. I get so excited.
Maybe we talk about Kevin Ollie. Maybe he's got the inside scoop on the Thompson twins. Think about that. All these guys, you never know. You kind of see it with coaches. We even saw it with Van Gundy. I mean, he signed up 40-year-old Jameer Nelson. We all saw that. Coaches always bring in guys that they can trust and that they know. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind too.
So with Jaren Collins, though, are you a little – the Warriors offense is a lot of fun. Pushing the pace. We're seeing Sacramento run some variation of it too. Mike Brown in there as the head coach. But my only concern with Jaren Collins is if he comes in here and he tries to run the the Golden State Warriors offense without the right personnel. Because, we were kind of talking about this. You look at the Sacramento Kings, you look at the Warriors, and you look at the New Orleans Pelicans just for a second too. They all have a 4 that great passing ability, great vision, is unselfish. Draymond Green, Sabonis, and Zion when he is playing. Those are the 4. Do the Pistons have a guy like that where you could run that type of system in Detroit. I don't think they do. I know we've seen some flashes of passing from Jalen Duren. I just don't know what kind of offense Jaren Collins is going to try to implement here. And I mean, maybe he has a completely different system. I just think when you've been with the Warriors and with the Pelicans, because I think the Pelicans, they also brought in someone else that was a Warriors assistant coach, right? At one point, or maybe I'm forgetting. It's Willie Green. I don't think he was with the Warriors. But anyways, with Jaren Collins, that's like my biggest thing is like, do we have the personnel for him to run the type of offense I think he's going to want to run? And I think it's similar to the Golden State Warriors. And I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just think when whoever they hire, I'm going to root for regardless. Yes, but looking at these three names, the reason I like Charles Lee is for what I said earlier, just, is comfortable with running a system that involves multiple big men. With Jaren Collins, I don't think you really get that, and I just wonder what the offense and what the team is going to look like. And I think it's kind of just set him up for failure just because the personnel is not what he's used to. He had a lot of success, like a lot of coaches did in Golden State, but Detroit does not have those players. And I just think it's going to be a tough job for anybody that comes over right away,
For sure. I mean, you could argue that Mike Brown was the star of the Golden State Warriors coaching staff because if you look, Sacramento has the number one offense in the NBA right now with Domantas Sabonis and then De'Aaron Fox and everything else that they have over there. I don't know if he would try to implement the Warriors way because I think coaches obviously – they all run the same thing. They're just called different. It's just different play calls, right? They're called something different. For me, I think it's Charles Lee, just because everything you said. They have Bobby Portis, they have Brook Lopez. Now, can Jalen Duren become a dribble handoff passer and be really effective out of the post? We've seen flashes that he could be a good passer, but we don't know if he's going to be up to that maybe Sabonis level. Here's hoping he can, because that would be phenomenal. I think Jaden Ivey has shown flashes of being able to play both guard positions at the point guard and the shooting guard position. We all know what Cade Cunningham is. He's a guy that is a two-way point forward that can drop 25 on you quickly. So I think the Pistons have a lot of good pieces in place, and I'm sure a lot of these coaches can scheme up a lot of different ways to use them, of how they view the way that the Pistons should use them. But like I said, if I had to put money on it, I'm going to be putting my money on Charles Lee. I just think he's the odds-on favorite to get this job.
Yeah, like I said, man, he's my absolute favorite. And I don't even know if the whole multiple big man thing is even a thing, but I just know that he comes from Milwaukee. They've had success with multiple bigs. Detroit wants to run multiple bigs because, crazy enough, that's kind of what the Eastern Conference is, with like you see Cleveland and you see a few of these other teams doing it too. So Boston, they've had a lot of success. Both those teams are in the playoffs, so it feels like you have to play big. So I would just want to see him bring in a coach that has experience, running a system with multiple bigs. And I think Charles Lee is the answer. It's no knock, though, on Kevin Ollie. I mean, it's cool that he's a front runner. I think that whole development thing is a real thing. But I don't know. I'm not as high on his name as much. Like, Charles Lee excites me. Jaren Collins would. My fear is he's going to try running the Golden State offense, man. And I just don't think the Pistons have the personnel right now for that to work.